Hello and welcome. My name is James of Yard Guitars, and this is a workshop tour. My wife and I purchased a flat in Cornwall, and it actually came with a garage, which we were very fortunate to have, and also it's quite sizable, and it had a void in the back, which kind of goes into like a gap in the foundations that is totally safe and all cleared. But when we first moved in, this was bare bones. There was no paint, and the only thing it actually had was a light bulb that sort of hung loosely on the ceiling and one sort of outlet right at the back of the workshop. So if I was doing any cutting outside, I had to run an extension cord, which was never really ideal, and also all the wiring was sort of kept up in the flat, so it was quite prone to tripping and causing all sorts of issues, which have now been rectified because of the equipment that I now have. So it's still quite a domestic place, so I've had to really kind of tailor the space into one, what's the most effective way of using this area, but also not to cause so much noise and disruption to other residents in the area. So I try to keep my noises to a minimum. Obviously with a machine, which we'll go through in a bit, it becomes a little bit more difficult, but I kind of control that on certain days and also within like certain time frames, so I'm not upsetting as many people as possible. So yeah, this is my workshop. It is a garage that I've renovated or turned into a workshop, and this is where I basically make everything of my electric guitars. I guess we'll start at the door side. So actually I'm stood right in front of the door. Let's see if I can do this with this gimbal that I've got. So it is basically a fold-up door, and I've got my light switch and my water supply sat really close to each other, which is why there's a little panel in between. And it also has a dust sheet covering my wife's lovely motorbike, nicer than anything that I've ever owned. So I look after it as best I can, especially that it lives in the workshop. That's why it's got the dust cover under it. So when I was sort of renovating the garage when I first moved in, my first job was actually to paint the walls, and I sort of went with the pure brilliant white for everything, and then the floor was this sort of red, used to be poppy seed red or something like that. Now it's chipped and scuffed from all the high spots and all the abuse over the last couple of years that I've sort of given it, so it's a bit patchy. But it's a bit nicer than just bare concrete, I guess. The main sort of work that happens is actually on this workbench here, which I built during lockdown. It's not something you can buy. I was really fortunate because this top is an engineering table from an old lab at the University of Plymouth, and they were closing down, and the estates guys basically said, you know, go in, we'll let you in for a half an hour period, and if it's not bolted to the ground, then you can have it. And I immediately sort of seeked out this tabletop and came to these tambour doored cupboards, and there's two of them, and basically they're suspended on this frame, and I drove up to Holsworthy for this frame, which actually turned out to be a really nice bot frame. And then I had some casters left over to raise it up, and it's a bit mobile, because if I need to move anything around or have it a bit more central, then I can do. But this is like a brilliant worktop. It's nice and stable, it's flat, and also it's a nice height. It's taller than your normal sort of workbench, but it means that I'm not bent over hurting my back when I'm doing any sort of fret work. So any sort of work that I'm doing, so I got two custom necks here for a 7-string a multi-scale of 28 to 27 inch. You know, anything that I'm working on currently either sits on the bench because it's like a reminder that's what I need to do, or actually in these lovely cupboards. It's great because the doors, they're timber, so they roll into the cupboard itself, so then I'm not reducing my space, but I've kind of put some racking together, so any of the guitars that I'm working on, I can kind of look at and see what's going on. So I've got a prototype, the body, one of the bodies of that neck, and then another prototype that's ready for base coating and everything else. And then next, kind of go up in this top bit is a bit of a mess, but I'll get there. And then on the next one, this is kind of filled with sanding, sandpaper, which is all the StewMac sticky back stuff, and any sort of scraps that we have that are still reusable that I've kind of torn off, I put into here because they're not one-time use, and if you can save yourself a bit of money, then great. And I use these Richlight sample squares, tiles, whatever you call them. These are actually the same width as the StewMac abrasive adhesive paper, whatever you call it. And so if you're trying to really keep a square, flat edge when you're sanding, these are perfect. And for any negative sort of sanding of curves, I use half a rolling pin, and then again just use these sticky back abrasive paper and just roll it round, and that's how I do most of my sanding. And then I do a lot of videos about like hardware and sort of jigs, and so most of my sort of processes, if it's to do with like an M3, so if I've got like, if I open this one up, so if depending on the hardware color, if I've got like a black string holder, then they go for these, and I got dog points and flat ends. And then if it's chrome, then they've got the stainless versions of those. Same with like all the little hardware for holding the back plates, and also direct mounting the pickups. And then we've got all the M3 inserts themselves, and I use this little tool which drives them into the wood, and also then releases it because it's got this like little spinny bit here, so I can get a little spanner, release it, and then jobs are good, and without having to unwind it from like using a couple of bolts and washers on a nut, a couple of nuts and washers on a bolt. And potentially when you go to unwind it out of the work, the insert also comes with it, and you sort of get all sorts of problems. Same again with actually M5 hardware. I try and keep it as organised as possible. Never usually is this tidy, but yeah, I got the insert driver, the inserts, and then I'm still waiting for the 30mm long versions of the black stainless, but I've then got 25 and 30mm countersunks ready for the neck hardware. And I just use old sort of Halford's special toolboxes, or whatever they call them. And then I basically just got some old hardware. And this, the box of joy, which has really proved successful. It's proved really successful on Instagram. There shouldn't be any sanding pads in here, because I'm not following a recipe of Fender or a parts caster. Everything I do is kind of like unique, and so all the little drill guides, because it's a solid body as opposed to a cap, and also where I'm direct mounting, and this also double acts as like a sanding guide, so I can put these in, and there's no worry about, you know, the orbital sander sort of dropping into the cavity whilst I'm sanding. So these are reusable, which I try to use as much as possible, but I'm one of those people that keep trying to improve products for clearances and tolerance and everything, so sometimes these do go to waste. But then what I'm doing is put them all in a box, which the ones that are usable, and the ones that aren't, I then go to recycle the PLA, because I'm not printing in anything overly toxic like ABS. I want to use PLA because it's degradable and recyclable, so I try and help in that way. There's no doubt it will probably change, and even down to like barrel jacks. So I want to recess where that flange or top lip of the jack output. So I use all sorts of sort of drill guides to make sure that when these line up, they're going to be concentric and perfect. Above the bench, I have my first aid kit, probably one of the best presents. I joke with my wife about it, but actually I love it. Blue roll is perfect, and we came to realise how useful, because I was rebuilding a motorbike for my dad. Which is actually why in behind my wife's bike there's a, what do you call them, a motorcycle hydraulic lift, which kind of sits against the wall, which I need to really find a space for it, and it's probably not great that it's leant against the wall in between that but it's been stable. I guess as long as I don't touch it, it's fine. Some plugs, and then I actually have a TV, you know, YouTube certified. So if I need some, to fill the silence, then this is really nice when the machine's not on. When the CNC is on, I'll just put headphones in or my ear defenders, and then I've got my sort of tools that I've slowly been sort of collecting over the years. If I can make a tool, I will. In, like, for example, like I've just made this one. So I've sort of improved the design. It's based on the all parts StewMac one with this sort of top turny thumb screw and then an adjustment. But the thing is that it's got 2 sets of tracks, so you can bend and straighten it out. So this is kind of prototyping at the moment, out of PLA 3D printing, but I'm going to make it a little bit better. Yeah, so a couple of tools that I've slowly been sort of collecting. These two are actually Christmas gifts from my wife, which I use all the time. She doesn't think I use them because she only ever comes down and they're only on the wall, but I do use them. I really do. Bradawl, fret slots, blade. And they're sort of a really underrated tool. These are more for like tradies, but these are tracers. So the lead's really long. So if you're doing any sort of holes, you know, for domestic stuff, then that's really useful. And then if I can try and keep it off the bench, then I will. And I just use sort of magnetic holders for most of my tools, and then the array of Allen keys that sort of come with all the, you know, the bridges and hardware that you buy, and they always give you multiples of everything. Oh yeah, here we go. So sanding, I didn't want like loads of boxes stored up. I just wanted kind of quick access. So 120, 180 and 240, depending on what I need. Yeah, I'll just quickly grab it, and it sits on the wall. Another plug outlet. So again, when I moved into this workshop, these plugs weren't here. It was only just one right at the back, and if I come on camera. So I had RE Row Electrics. They came out and installed this and ran trunking all the way round and sort of retrofitted it. So we've got now like an electric feed coming down from the apartment on like a 60 amp, and then that feeds everything in the workshop. So it's totally isolated. And whilst we're here, you know, I've got plugs there everywhere. So wherever I'm hoovering or something, they're really useful. My mum, who are really concerned about the noise, and you can see there's one here, one there, and then 2 on the wall. We made these acoustic panels because I was just generally like concerned about all the sound that would be produced. I think it helps. They're rated, and I've sort of suspended them using Amazon special hooks, just so that, you know, there's probably loads of dust up there. Just so that the vibration can't transfer through the ceiling. And then I've got some lights to make it all clean. Yeah, so then a couple of nut files and bits and pieces. And then I bought this Korg rack mounted tuner, and then I just kind of ran it through a little microcube, which I bought off my mate, which is really nice. And you don't need a bloody 960 cab or anything. You just need something small that just works and make sure you can hear what you're doing. And then I've just kind of got some radius sounding blocks, some that I've printed because they're actually more consistent than these. What I've tend to find is like the 12-inch ones from StewMac, they eventually twist because they're wood. Of course, wood moves, and there's no truss rod or reinforcement bars in those. I've got an air blaster. These are the ones that you see spammed across Instagram. And it's actually really good. I'm not endorsed, but Hydrain, if you do want to endorse me and give me a load of air blasters, please do. It's good for like cleaning out PCs, but also blowing off the dust from the CNC. It's really useful. So again, if I can print it, design it, great, I will. So these are for like the Goto square output jack plates, and also the cat eye or football ones they call it. So little guide bushes. So you will have a flat surface, and you can move that up and down. This goes into the hole of where the jack goes, and then depending if it's the square or the football one, That's nice and easy. And then basically made my own nut scriber from solid PETG, little thumb screws, and then I've basically those tracer these tracer pencils, they come with refillable leads, so I just reuse that, which is nice and easy, and they just let it focus. So then if I need, I've got like little notches on the side, I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, nice and easy. All sorts of general stuff, and then all the drill bits and long drill bits as well, and then bevel fret files, which I came up with. I know there's designs that are similar, but I made these. So depending on the bevel that you want to a 12-inch radius fretboard, is what that's pre-routed to. I can actually take out sort of an Axminster file from rough, medium and smooth, which is what I end up with, and I can change the angle of the actual bevel, because I don't want it, you know, beveled really over a lot, because then you lose your playability. And then we've got this cupboard. This is actually like really underrated, but it's like the first cupboard that I bought, and I had to borrow my mate's van to pick it up because I couldn't fit it in a car. And now it's just kind of filled with all the stickers and bike parts and stuff. Or if we, me and my wife, we're avid MotoGP fans, so if we go to a race or anything, we'll pick up stickers, and you know, Marquez is my wife's favourite rider. So yeah, when I've been sort of working on bikes from the various sort of suppliers, you know, it's now becoming more rusty and ratty, but I don't want to ever get rid of it. I know I'm gushing over a bloody cupboard. And then just kind of all the stuff like ultrasonic cleaner, all the sort of tools and stuff that really aren't relevant. And yeah, I try and keep this as clean as possible. I only organised it the other day, which conveniently looks better. So depending on, you know, glue, hardware, stains, filler, yeah. And then my wife's and I's helmets, and then obviously our jackets. Next to the cupboard, I've got all my spoil boards for my CNC, and they've kind of been named Landrake, Tamar. And obviously depending if it's like the body or the neck, multi-scale, and depending on the type of multi-scale, then I can just pick them up. So this is where a lot of people have been asking, like, how are these done? So I just pull this out a little bit. So it's like a stage 1, 2, 3 and 4, depending on like the orientation. So the stock starts at stage 1, and then this is actually for the fretboard, just like the gaskets. So what I do is all the stock gets located on these. This stops any air leakage if the stock is ever so slightly twisted. It just reinforces that vacuum seal, and then the air gets pulled through these holes that you can see there. And then the dowel points on the outside is obviously where it's locating from, and I kind of work left to right. So this is the back of the headstock to my headless guitars, and that's the heel. So obviously there's empty space, and you can see it's kind of traced to the profile, but it's on the back of these so that it lines up with the vac bed grid system. So I just use a Forstner bit to bore it out, because if the grid sits, you know, here, it'll block the hole, but then if you use the Forstner bit, it can then scavenge through, you know, a bit of a gap. So at least then I know there's pressure all the way through. So yeah, just a Forstner bit, only about 3mm in, and I use 18 mil boards, just so then I've got room for skimming, and they just kind of sit against the wall. It's the best sort of place I could have it, was underneath all the cupboards and stuff. Yeah, and there's loads of extra space next to my desk, so I've just kind of put like a platform here just to put down some of my sanding jigs, fret press and other sort of randomness that kind of gets left behind. So when I mentioned at the beginning, there's a void because it's on the side of a hill. So this used to be all boarded up or bricked up, which I now call the void. And I use this little thermal curtain, and it's a bit of a mess. That actually is a mess, but it's like the old bulkhead from my van. A guitar here that's waiting for some hardware. It's, you know, bits and pieces of my fretwire kind of hangs up. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Some old prototypes, a Strat that I made by hand just to prove that I could do it, and then I went and I was like, nah, I'm going back to CNCs, chop saw and bits and pieces, and some bicycles and other sorts of ramps and stuff for the bikes. So then I've got my tool cabinet, which I've had for ages. I picked this up for like 50 quid on Facebook Marketplace. I don't think the guy really realised how much he could have sold it for. And I just kind of went, yes please, and bought it. And I like all the tools organised, so I CNC'd all the foam. However, what's really bugging me, I did a job, I think I was replacing a wheel on my van or something, and I have no idea where this one's gone, the 17mm long socket, which is really annoying. So you can kind of see like where I'm fastidious with tools and everything, and then it gets to a bit of a mess because they don't have a place. This one kind of does, but it's all boxes of stuff. And then on top is my the laptop that drives the CNC, and then I've got my cutters, and then so when I'm replacing cutters and tools, it sort of slots into this little mount, and I can untwist it, change the collet over, grab a tool and lock it off with the spanners. So this is the room. I'll stand back, which there is like a nook to the actual footprint in the garage, and I've walled around it and filled with the same acoustic rated foam as these panels. So this is the CNC that I've been very fortunate to take receipt of, and it's a Stony Executive 8 with 5.0 robotics, which basically means it's been enhanced with reinforced hardware. It's gone from steppers to servo motors on all axes. Things like the ball screws have been sort of increased from 16 to 32, sorry. So everything is really nice and robust. I use this for every application that I can, so the majority of all my machining of guitars, necks, the bodies, and other bits and pieces that come my way for custom work, this is what I use it on. It really is just like an amazing bit of kit, and I've had it equipped with this aluminium vac bed, and then the pump is down there, and then it's just turned on via here, and it's really nice because it's very well integrated. So I don't know if you can see at the back, maybe, but at the back there, the all the tubing and hoses are actually integrated into this extruded alley bed, and then it comes through little holes actually into the extrusion. I use a QTC, or a quick tool change, which uses a little tool. Let's grab it here. This one here, and it's set to 3 Newton meters. So when I'm actually changing it, there's a little Allen key hole on the tool holder, or just above the tool holder, and this allows me just to quickly swap it out. But if you've ever looked at a Stony or an Executive 8 and sort of wanted a bit of more information, email me, james@yardguitars with an e.co.uk. But yeah, if you give me a shout, we can video call. I can show you sort of details about how I've implemented this machine into my workflow, and how I've sort of, you know, encompassed it into this little nook of the garage where I've insulated it with sort of all these sound panels, which are backed onto a bit of MDF, and then it's velcro to the wall, purely because then I can remove it if I need to access something behind it, or when hopefully I move to a bigger premises, I'm not going to destroy the garage walls itself. And what I'm using here is my 7-string spoil board. So again, all the little holes. So if I'm not using this side of it, so the back of the guitar will sit against here, and I'll machine the top. So when it's not in use, I use these little silicone tapered rubber bungs, which are perfect, but they stop any vacuum or air being drawn, and it obviously loses its seal. But yeah, I'll skim this, flip it, skim it again, and then I'll put in the location marks to then flip it, which will be normally located in the neck pocket and the bridge pocket. And then once that's actually fitted and lined up, I can then start machining the back, knowing that it's got full draw downwards, but also it's not going to move around on the X and Y because it's got sort of pins. So I've got little boxes here. Also, I've got these gym mats, which are actually rated for, like, 300 kilo deadlifts. So the machine sits on that to stop any vibration traveling through the ground, as like a precaution, just in case. So that's pretty much it. It's a small workshop. It works for me. Everything's got its space. I hope to slowly grow to breaking point in that I'm bursting at the seams and I have to take on an industrial unit. So this was kind of like a small insight into my tooling, my space. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's answered some people's questions. If you have any questions, put it down in the comment section below, or email me directly at james@yard.guitars.co.uk. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe below. I'm only a small channel, and everyone who's been watching, commenting, it's been a real delight to see all the messages and feedback. So I really appreciate everyone who's subscribed from day one. Means a lot. Thank you so much, and goodbye.